All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to get into talking about another divisional game. We'll talk about the Dolphins Bills game. So, obviously, this will be Tua's second game back after missing, most of the season with the concussion, and he got hurt against the Bills, and now they'll be taking him on in Buffalo. That game was, of course, in Miami. The Bills, before Tua got hurt, he was not playing well in that game. He threw 3 picks, and then, of course, later gets injured. And, just happy to see him back out there, though. And, I talked about his performance yesterday. Numbers-wise, it was not bad. The Dolphins looked like a better team with him, of course, which is not a surprise. But this game is big for the Dolphins. I thought they were going to win last week. I did pick them, and it looked good. They had a 10-point lead, but they ended up blowing it. And now you're going up against the Buffalo Bills, who are looking great offensively. And this is a team that the Dolphins have had a problem with the last couple of years. They got swept by them last year. They already lost to them this year. Right now, they're 6-point underdogs going in. So, Tua's going to have to step up in this game. Dolphins' defense is going to have to step up in this game to try to slow down Josh Allen and that passing attack, and also you got to deal with James Cook as well. To kind of look at the league rankings, passing yards per game, the Bills' defense is 18th, giving up an average of 221.4. And then the Dolphins' defense is this is offensive stats. My mistake. Bills are averaging 221.4 passing yards per game. The Dolphins are averaging 204.9. Now, of course, that's without Tua for most of the season. So you figure that's going to, go up as we move along here in the second half. Rushing yards per game. This is where the Dolphins have to find success to try to slow down the Bills' offense and keep them off the field. They're top 10. They're ninth, averaging 131.7 rushing yards per game. And the Bills are averaging 122.3, which is 13th. James Cook's having a good year. But then points per game, it's not even close. The Bills' offense is 5th, averaging 28.8 points per game, and the Dolphins are 32nd, averaging 13.9 points per game. And last year it was completely different. They were, close to the top. They were one of the top scoring offenses. Tyreek Hill had a big year. Tua was good and led the league in passing yards, but with him being out, they just really could not get anything going offensively. They did end up winning a game, of course, against the Patriots, but it was some tough football to watch. So now we'll get into the defensive stats. So actually, the Dolphins, their defense does well against the pass. They're holding quarterbacks to under 200 yards passing. Josh Allen, I don't think, had 200 yards passing in the game against them the first time they met, but it didn't really matter because, he only had 139 yards passing. But that's because the Bills, their defense dominated the game, 3 interceptions, and James Cook had a big game. So, but then defensively, when it comes to the run, both teams are middle of the pack. Let's get back to the Bills for a second. Their pass defense, they're giving up an average of 224.5 passing yards per game. So maybe they can find some success throwing it to Tyreek Hill, get him involved, get Jalen Waddle involved. And then rushing yards per game, they're, like I said, both in the middle of the pack. Bills are 15th. Dolphins are 16th. Bills are giving up an average of 120.3 rushing yards per game. And then the Dolphins are giving up an average of 123.7. So, like I said, maybe find success in the running game if you're the Dolphins. Use Devon Achane, use Raheem Mostert. Get those guys going. For the Bills, try to do the same thing you did the first time. Have James Cook just run the football because he had a big game. Points allowed, Bills defense is 6th, giving up an average of 18.3 points per game. And then the Dolphins are giving up an average of 22.4, which is 16th. Yeah, the Bills' defense has done a nice job for the most part this year. Against the Ravens, they gave up 35 points. So, and Derrick Henry ran all over them. But Derrick Henry has done that to the Bills. That's one of the teams that Derrick Henry has tormented over the years is the Bills. He's had some big games against them. So, but, having said all that, I think the Bills win this game. I just think that they have the Dolphins' number. And I think now with this game being in Buffalo, it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. And Josh Allen is playing really well. He's got 14 touchdowns to 1 interception. I mean, it's unbelievable. He didn't throw his first interception until I think it was this week, right? Wasn't it this past week against the Seahawks? Yeah, it was against the Seahawks. It took till week 8 for him to throw his first interception. That's unbelievable. He's been doing a great job at limiting the turnovers. Really has. I mean, obviously he wasn't going to go the whole year without throwing a pick. Like, that was going to happen. But he's been great. And, bringing in Amari Cooper, that just makes the offense better. Didn't really do much against the Seahawks, but he had a good game the week before that. So, I expect him to have a big game here. And, get the other guys involved. James Cook, like I said, he had a big game against the Dolphins back in week 2. I think he had 3 touchdowns in that game, if I'm not mistaken. So he had 2 rushing touchdowns, but I think he also had a receiving touchdown as well. So they got to lean on him in this game as well. Yeah, so he ran the ball for 78 yards, had 2 rushing touchdowns, and he had a receiving touchdown as well. So 3 total touchdowns in that game. I don't know if he's going to do that, but I expect him to get into the end zone at least one time. But for the Dolphins, I think, like I said, to try and limit this Bills offense, one of the things they're really going to have to do is, dominate time of possession. Keep Josh Allen and that offense off the field. Have sustained drives. Long sustained drives. Run the football. Get the ball to Tyreek Hill. Get the ball to Jalen Waddle. It's easier said than done. And, try to keep them off the field. That's really how you got to look at it. Because, I really do think you start getting into a shootout and you fall behind similar to last year and similar to, the game this year. I don't think they're going to be able to come back. I really don't. And this is Tua's second game back from an injury. So, and again, he looked good. The Dolphins should have won last week. They should have. It's just when you think about it, though, if the Dolphins lose this game, I mean, they're going to fall to what, 2-6? What are they at right now? That's tough to overcome. Yeah, they're going to fall. Yeah, if they lose, they're falling to 2-6. And then you got the Rams after that. You play the Packers on Thanksgiving, the Texans, the 49ers. I mean, I went through their schedule already, but still, it's going to be tough. That's why losing these last 2 games was tough, because they should have beaten the Colts. I think they pretty much had that game won. Well, I shouldn't say that, but they were leading, and the Colts they took the lead and they didn't look back. Yeah, I mean, the Dolphins were up, 10-0? Yeah, they were up 10-0 in that game, and then the Colts scored 16 unanswered points. So, could have won that game, and then against the Cardinals, you blow a 10-point lead. So, back-to-back weeks, you're blowing 10-point leads. So, if you win those 2, you're looking at 4-3, and that's good. But right now, you're 2-5. You are what your record says you are. And they got to figure it out. But I definitely think there's a chance they could win this game. Anything can happen. But, the Bills are a team that has owned them. And now you're playing in Buffalo. And Josh Allen is playing at an MVP level. So, I got to go with the Bills. I know it's a lot of points, but I think they win by at least a touchdown. But who knows? Who knows? I'm curious to see what ends up happening with them after the year. I think I might have said this already. Because I think, if you miss the playoffs entirely, is Mike McDaniel gone? Is that on the table? Or, You're going to give him another chance. I mean, I think the Dolphins can make a little bit of a run, but who knows? They did give him an extension before the year started, because I just thought about that now. I was like, didn't they give Mike McDaniel an extension? Yeah, he signed through 2028. So, I mean, if they finish with like 4 wins, I mean, you're still going to bring him back. But then you could say, well, Tua got hurt, and, he had a lot of injuries. I get it. But we'll see. We'll see. This is going to be a tough game, but if they lose this game, they go to 2-6. Right now, I lean towards saying no, they're not making the playoffs. But it's not impossible. I mean, the NFC is more log jammed. The AFC, if you got a team like, if the Jets can make a run or the Dolphins can make a run, I mean, maybe you find a way into the playoffs. But you got to start winning games. So, but let me know what you guys think about this game. Who do you think wins? Like I said, I got the Bills winning. Let me know in the comments. So, we are going to take our next break. When we come back, we will talk about the college football matchups for this weekend. We'll also, I'll talk about some of the games from last week, and then we'll get into previewing. We'll take a look at the early window games for Week 9 in the NFL. So make sure to stick around for that. So that's what we will do. We'll get into some college football. We'll get into some NFL. Like I said, I'll recap some of the games from last week in college football. We'll get into that. Obviously I want to talk a little bit about Ohio State. Nebraska, of course, being there. I wanted to get into that. But yeah, we'll talk about all that when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.